Greetings, everybody, and welcome to my show. My name is Thomas W. Timbrooks, and I put out this weekly show. This week, I'm going to put out a show about America's 250th anniversary, signing of the Declaration of Independence that happened 250 years ago this Saturday. And it's going to be interesting. So, greetings and welcome to my show. Mosk Dagta, make Oregon's 6th Congressional District America's greatest congressional district. That's my ambition, and I'm sticking with it. David Russ for Congress, that's the person I'm supporting. He won the primary election, and he's a good guy. He's a Republican, so I'm going to go ahead and support him. I think you should too. Now remember, insanity is a severe mental disorder that impairs a person's ability to understand reality, appreciate consequences, exercise rational judgment. Insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, but expecting different results. That comes from Rita Mae Brown's 1983 novel, Sudden Death. So if anybody tells you that, they're wrong. So America at 250. Wait a minute, I had another slide in there. Nope. America at 250. So as America approaches its 250th anniversary, many discussions focus on the familiar symbols of Independence Day. That's fireworks, patriotic songs, the Founding Fathers, and the Revolutionary War. Those subjects are important, but today I would like to examine something larger. I would like us to step back and look at the United States from a broader perspective, a perspective that stretches not across decades, but across thousands of years of human history. What if America is not simply a country? What if America is one chapter in a much larger story? A story that began long before 1776 and will continue long after any of us is gone. The story I'm referring to is the story of human civilization itself. The central idea of today's presentation is simple. America is not the destination of history. America is one milestone in humanity's continuing search for liberty, justice, dignity, and human flourishing. Today we will explore how that journey unfolded. Every year Americans celebrate the 4th of July. Most celebrations focus on a single day, July 4th, 1776. But the ideas expressed on that day did not just appear suddenly. They were the result of centuries of philosophical development and thousands of years of human experience. The Declaration of Independence was not merely a political document. It represented a milestone in mankind's understanding of individual rights and legitimate government. The signing of the Declaration was similar to a scientific discovery. Just as scientific knowledge builds upon earlier discoveries, political knowledge builds upon the lessons of previous generations. When we celebrate Independence Day, we are celebrating more than the birth of a nation. We are celebrating one of humanity's most important advances in understanding freedom. What in the world? There we go. The long view. Sorry about that. These slides are not advancing like I want them to. The long view. Okay. America is approximately 250 years old. Human civilization is more than 5,000 years old. Human beings themselves have existed for hundreds of thousands of years. Viewed from that perspective, America is relatively young. Imagine someone studying human civilization 5,000 years from now. They might look at America the same way we look at ancient Rome. Important, influential, historically significant, but still just one chapter among many. This perspective does not diminish America. It elevates America because it places America within the larger story of mankind's continuing development. Okay, having some trouble with the slides here. Okay, civilization. Okay, here we go. I'm on track now. Civilization functions much like a learning system. Individuals learn through experience. Organizations learn through experience. So do nations. Human civilization learns through experience. Sometimes we learn through success. Sometimes we learn through failure. Sometimes we learn through catastrophe. The important point is that knowledge accumulates. Lessons learned by one generation can be passed to the next. Over time, humanity develops better methods for solving problems, better methods for organizing society, better methods for creating prosperity, better methods of protecting liberty. Civilization is therefore not static. It evolves. Long before governments existed, humans lived in small groups. Those groups faced difficult challenges, finding food, protecting themselves from predators, raising children, surviving harsh environments. No individual could solve all of these problems alone. Success required cooperation. People learned that working together produced outcomes impossible for isolated individuals. This lesson remains true today. The modern world is built upon cooperation. Roads, power grids, hospitals, universities, and factories all require people working together towards common goals. The roots of civilization began with a simple realization: people accomplish more together than alone. That one came good. Okay. Agriculture transformed human civilization. Before agriculture, most people spent nearly all their time searching for food. Farming changed that equation. Food surpluses became possible. For the first time, not everyone needed to hunt or gather. Some people could specialize. Some became builders, some became teachers, some became craftsmen, some became leaders. Specialization increased productivity. Productivity increased prosperity. Prosperity enabled larger and more complex societies. So civilization became possible because agriculture created the foundation upon which everything else could be built. Every growing society eventually encounters the same problem. How do people resolve disputes peacefully? Without rules, disagreements are often settled through force, but force is inefficient. Force creates instability. Force discourages cooperation. Human societies gradually discover that predictable rules create better outcomes. Law emerged as a technology of civilization. Just as a hammer helps solve physical problems, laws help solve social problems. Laws reduce uncertainty. Laws create expectations. Laws allow strangers to cooperate. The development of legal systems was one of humanity's greatest innovations. Ancient Egypt demonstrated something extraordinary. Large populations could coordinate complex activities over long periods of time. Massive construction projects, agricultural management, trade networks, administrative systems. Whether we admire all aspects of Egyptian society or not, it revealed an important lesson. Human beings could organize on a scale never before imagined. Civilization was becoming more sophisticated. The ability to coordinate large groups of people would become one of humanity's defining strengths. Mesopotamia is often called the cradle of civilization. Among its contributions were writing, record-keeping, and early legal systems. Writing changed everything. Knowledge no longer depended entirely on memory. Information could be preserved. Lessons could be transmitted across generations. Ideas could survive the deaths of individuals. For the first time, civilization developed something resembling a long-term memory. That memory allowed future generations to build upon earlier achievements. King Hammurabi created one of the earliest known legal codes. Its importance extends beyond the specific laws themselves. The revolutionary idea was that rules became visible, known, predictable. Citizens could understand what was expected. Government becomes less arbitrary. This represented a major step towards the rule of law. The principle that laws should be known and applied consistently would continue evolving for thousands of years. Eventually, it would influence concepts found in constitutional republics around the world, including the United States. As civilization developed, humanity began asking deeper questions, not simply how to survive, not simply how to organize society, but questions about truth itself. Why are things the way they are? What is justice? What makes a government legitimate? Ancient Greece became one of the first civilizations to systemically pursue these questions. The Greeks did not invent human thought. People had been thinking of that for thousands of years. What the Greeks contributed was culture that encouraged questioning. Instead of simply accepting tradition, many Greek thinkers sought explanations based on observation, logic, and reason. This shift would permanently alter the course of civilization. The habit of asking why became one of humanity's most powerful tools. What is justice? Greek philosophers such as Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle asked questions that remain relevant today. What is justice? What is truth? What is virtue? What is the purpose of government? What obligations do citizens have to one another? Notice something important. These questions are still being debated today. 2,000 years later, we are still wrestling with many of the same issues. That is one reason the Greeks remained important. They helped humanity begin a conversation that continues to this day. In Athens, an extraordinary experiment began. Instead of being ruled exclusively by kings or hereditary elites, citizens participated directly in government. The Athenian system was far from perfect. Many people were excluded. Women could not vote. Slavery existed. Yet the idea itself was revolutionary. Government could derive legitimacy from the participation of citizens. This concept would inspire future generations. The democratic system used today differ greatly from those of Athens, but the underlying principle remains familiar. People should have a voice in decisions that affect their lives. If Greece asked questions about government, Rome became a master of building governmental structures. Rome's contribution was practical. It developed institutions capable of governing large populations across vast territories. The Romans demonstrated that durable systems require more than good intentions. They require procedures, rules, responsibilities, checks on power. The Roman Republic became one of history's most influential political experiments. Many of its concepts continue to influence modern governments, including our own. The Roman Senate was not identical to modern legislatures. However, it introduced an important concept. Power could be distributed among institutions rather than concentrated in a single ruler. The Senate represented continuity, debate, deliberation, shared responsibility. Modern representative government reflects many of these same ideas. The U.S. Senate itself was consciously inspired by elements of Roman Republic tradition. The founders studied Roman history carefully. They admired Rome's success. They also learned from Rome's failures. Perhaps the most important Roman legacy was the development of law. The Romans increasingly recognized that stable societies require predictable rules. A society governed solely by personalities is fragile. A society governed by laws is more durable. This distinction remains critical today. Individuals come and go, laws and institutions endure. The idea that government itself should be bound by legal constraints became one of the foundational principles of later constitutional systems, including the American Constitution. For centuries, Rome appeared unstoppable. Its military was powerful, its economy was vast, its influence stretched across continents. Yet Rome eventually declined. Its institutions weakened, its its internal cohesion deteriorated, its ability to adapt diminished. This teaches a profound lesson. Civilization is not guaranteed. Progress is not automatic. Every generation inherits institutions. Every generation must decide whether to strengthen them or neglect them. Rome reminds us that even great civilizations are vulnerable. Governments can collapse, empires can disappear, cities can be destroyed, ideas can survive, Roman law survived, Greek philosophy survived, knowledge was copied, preserved, and studied and transmitted. The survival of knowledge is one of civilization's greatest strengths. Each generation does not have to start from zero. Instead, we inherit the accumulated wisdom of those who came before us. The Declaration of Independence itself would eventually emerge from centuries of inherited ideas. The Middle Ages are often misunderstood. People sometimes imagine this period as a complete interruption of progress. The reality is more complicated. Knowledge continued to develop. Universities emerged, legal traditions evolved, commerce expanded, new technologies appeared. Civilizational progress rarely moves in a straight line. Sometimes advancement is rapid, sometimes it is slow, sometimes it appears to stall. But beneath the surface, ideas continue evolving. Humanity continued learning, and eventually one of those lessons would transform the readership between rulers and citizens. The Magna Carta. In 1215, a document known as the Magna Carta was signed. At first glance, it may seem like a simple political agreement. Its deeper significance lies elsewhere. The Magna Carta introduced a revolutionary principle. Government power has limits. Even rulers must obey the law. That idea may seem obvious to us today. It was not obvious in the 13th century. For much of human history, rulers often stood above the law. The Magna Carta challenged that assumption. This principle would echo through the centuries. It would influence English law, it would influence constitutional government, and eventually it would influence the men who wrote the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of the United States. The true importance of the Magna Carta was not the specific words written on the parchment in 1215. Its importance was the principle it introduced. The idea that government power is not unlimited. The idea that authority itself can be constrained. This was a profound shift in human thinking. For thousands of years, rulers often claimed authority through force, inheritance, or divine right. Once a civilization accepts this principle, an important question naturally follows. If rulers have limits, where do those limits come from? That question would occupy thinkers for centuries. Eventually, it would lead directly to the concept of individual rights. Figures such as Leonardo da Vinci demonstrated how curiosity could unlock extraordinary achievements. The Renaissance encouraged a new mindset. Rather than simply accept the world as it existed, people began asking how it might be improved. The spirit of inquiry would eventually influence politics as much as science and art. The scientific revolution changed how humanity understands reality. Wait a minute. Magna Carta, Renaissance, scientific, there we are. I was one behind, sorry about that. The scientific revolution changed how humanity understands reality. Thinkers such as Galileo Galilei, Johannes Kepler, and Isaac Newton demonstrated that knowledge could be gained through observation, experimentation, and evidence. This represented a major shift. Authority alone was no longer sufficient. Claims increasingly required proof. The scientific method became one of the most successful problem-solving tools ever developed. More importantly, it taught a broader lesson. Human understanding can improve. We can learn. We can correct mistakes. We can build upon previous knowledge. That lesson would eventually influence political thinking as well. The Enlightenment was one of the most influential intellectual movements in human history. The thinkers across Europe began applying reason to questions of government, rights, and human society. Instead of asking what has always been done, they increasingly asked what should be done. The Enlightenment encouraged people to evaluate institutions using reason rather than tradition alone. It challenged assumptions. It questioned authority. It sought principles that could apply universally. Many of the ideas we take for granted today emerged during this period. One of the Enlightenment's most revolutionary concepts was the idea of natural rights. The basic premise was simple. Certain rights belong to individuals because they are human rights, not because governments grant them, not because kings permit them, but because majorities approve them. They exist independently of political authority. This was a radical departure from much of previous history. If rights are inherent, then government exists to protect them rather than create them. The idea would profoundly influence the American founding. The American colonies inherited many of the intellectual developments we have discussed. English legal traditions, the principle of the Magna Carta, the ideas of enlightenment, concepts of representative government, concepts of individual rights. The colonies were not isolated from history, they were products of history. The settlers brought with them centuries of accumulated civilizational experience. As tensions with Britain increased, these inherited ideas became increasingly important. The colonists were not simply arguing about taxes, they were debating the nature of authority itself. The Declaration of Independence is often viewed primarily as a declaration of separation from Britain. It certainly accomplished that purpose, but its significance extends far beyond politics. The Declaration presented a philosophical argument, a statement about human nature, a statement about rights, about legitimate government. The document was revolutionary because it grounded political authority in universal principles rather than inherited power. Its influence would extend far beyond the 13 colonies. At the heart of the Declaration appears one of the most famous sentences ever written. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. Notice the extraordinary nature of this claim. The Declaration does not argue that equality is granted by government. It does not argue that equality is bestowed by rulers. It presents equality as a fundamental truth, a principle inherent in human existence itself. Whether societies always lived up to that principle is a separate question. The importance lies in establishing the standard. For the first time, a nation explicitly grounded its legitimacy in universal human equity. The right to life is the right to life is the foundation upon which all other rights depend. Without life, liberty has no meaning. Without life, opportunity has no meaning. Without life, happiness has no meaning. The Declaration recognized that every individual possesses inherent worth. This idea may seem obvious today. Historically, it was revolutionary. Many societies throughout history treat individuals as instruments of rulers, states, or social classes. The Declaration reversed that relationship. Government exists to serve people. People do not exist to serve the government. Liberty recognizes that Liberty recognizes that human beings, I got to say that again. Liberty recognizes that human beings are not merely living creatures. They are thinking creatures, choosing creatures, creative creatures. Liberty acknowledges the importance of individual agency, the ability to make decisions, the ability to pursue goals, the ability to determine one's own path. Civilization advances when individuals possess the freedom to contribute their ideas, talents, and efforts. Much of humanity's progress has resulted from people exercising that freedom. The right to liberty, therefore, represents not only a moral principle, it is also a practical engine of innovation and progress. The third right identified in the Declaration is perhaps the most distinctive: life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Notice what the Declaration does not say. It does not guarantee happiness. It does not guarantee success. It does not guarantee wealth. Instead, it recognizes the individual's right to pursue those things. This distinction is important. Human beings are different. We possess different talents, different goals, different dreams. The pursuit of happiness acknowledges that individuals should have the freedom to determine what continues a meaningful life. This was a remarkable idea. For much of history, rulers often determined the acceptable path for citizens. The Declaration placed that responsibility in the hands of individuals. For thousands of years, political authority generally flowed downward. Kings ruled subjects, empires ruled populations. Power originated at the top. The Declaration reversed that flow. Authority now originated with the people. Government became accountable to citizens, rather than citizens being accountable to rulers. This change may seem obvious to modern audiences because we've lived with it for generations. But in 1776, it represented one of the most radical political transformations in human history. The Declaration shifted legitimacy from inherited power to universal human rights. That shift continues to influence societies around the world. The Declaration announced principles. The Constitution created a framework. The founders understood that noble ideas alone are insufficient. Every society must answer practical questions. Who writes laws? Who enforces laws? Who interprets laws? How its power is distributed? How are conflicts resolved? The Constitution was designed to answer those questions. It transformed philosophical ideas into operational systems. In engineering terms, the Declaration described the objective, the Constitution described the mechanism. At its core, the American experiment asked a simple question: can free people govern themselves? History offered reasons for skepticism. Many societies had relied upon kings, empires, aristocracies, strong centralized authority. The founders proposed a different model. A government derived its legitimacy from the consent of the governed. No one knew with certainty whether such a system would succeed. Its success depended not only on institutions, but also on citizens. Self-government requires responsibility, participation and engagement, and a willingness to resolve disagreements peacefully. The preamble may be one of the most concise mission statements ever written. It identifies 6 objectives: to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty. Notice something important: the preamble does not promise perfection. It promises effort, progress, and improvement. The phrase "more perfect" acknowledges that perfection may never be fully achieved, yet improvement remains possible. This is one reason the Constitution remains relevant. It is oriented towards continuous refinement. Many people think of the Constitution as a static document. In reality, it functions more like a process, a mechanism for peaceful adaptation. Elections allow leadership to change. Legislation allows policies to change. Courts allow interpretations to evolve. Amendments allow the Constitution itself to be modified. The founders understood something fundamental. No generation possesses perfect knowledge. Future generations would encounter problems they could not foresee. Therefore, the system needed the ability to learn and adapt. The Constitution is not merely a structure, it is a feedback system. Every civilization makes mistakes. Every government makes mistakes. Every generation makes mistakes. America is no exception. The existence of mistakes does not prove failure. The refusal to correct mistakes does. Progress occurs when societies identify problems and improve their institutions. This mirrors how science advances, mirrors how engineering advances, mirrors how human learning advances. Trial, error, correction, improvement. The strength of a society is often measured not by its perfection, but by its capacity for self-correction. One of the most significant themes in American history is the gradual expansion of liberty. The principles of the Declaration create a standard. Future generations repeatedly asked whether society was fully living up to the standard. As a result, access to rights and opportunities expanded. The process was often slow, sometimes contentious, sometimes incomplete, yet the overall trajectory moved towards broader inclusion. This illustrates an important point. The Declaration established a destination. The Constitution provided a mechanism. Each generation works to bring the two into closer alignment. Throughout history, many of humanity's greatest advances emerged from free individuals pursuing ideas: scientists, inventors, entrepreneurs, artists, engineers, thinkers. Freedom allows experimentation. Freedom encourages creativity. Freedom permits individuals to challenge existing assumptions. Innovation often occurs when people are allowed to explore possibilities that others initially dismiss. This relationship between liberty and creativity has contributed enormously to human progress. The freer a society becomes, the more opportunities individuals have to contribute. When we study history, we often focus on famous individuals: presidents, generals, inventors, political leaders. But civilization is built primarily by ordinary people: farmers who produce food, teachers who educate children, engineers who design infrastructure, workers who manufacture products, parents who raise the next generation. Civilization advances because millions of people perform meaningful work every day. Most will never appear in textbooks, yet their contributions are essential. The progress of humanity is not the achievement of a few extraordinary individuals. It is the cumulative achievement of countless ordinary people working together across generations. Throughout history, civilizations have influenced one another. Greek philosophy influenced Rome. Roman law influenced Europe. The Enlightenment influenced the American founding. Ideas rarely remain confined to a single place. America's most important contribution may not be its territory, its economy, or even its military power. Its most enduring contribution may be the ideas that it helped articulate and demonstrate. Ideas about liberty, self-government, individual rights. These ideas have influenced people far beyond America's borders because powerful ideas belong to humanity, not geography. On July 20th, 1969, human beings stepped onto the moon. The mission was organized by the United States. The astronauts were Americans. The technology was American. Yet something larger was taking place. For the first time in history, humanity reached another world. People across the globe watched the event. For a brief moment, national boundaries seemed less important than the achievement itself. The moon landing became a symbol of what human beings can accomplish when knowledge, courage, and determination come together. The plaque left on the lunar surface contains a simple statement: "We came in peace for all mankind." Consider the significance of those words. The plaque did not say, "We came for America." It did not say, "We came for one nation." It said, "For all mankind." The achievement belonged to humanity. The mission was American. The accomplishment was human. That distinction is important because many of humanity's greatest achievements ultimately transcend the nations that produced them. No one owns mathematics. No one owns science. No one owns the concept of human rights. These ideas emerge in particular places, but eventually they became part of humanity's shared inheritance. The same can be said of many principles expressed in the Declaration of Independence. The Declaration was written in America, but the ideas resonate far beyond America. The belief that individuals possess inherent rights, the belief that governments derive legitimacy from the consent of the governed, the belief that liberty matters. These are not merely American ideas, they are human ideas. Countries are often defined by borders. America certainly has borders, but America's influence has always extended beyond geography. At its best, America represents a proposition. The proposition that free people can govern themselves, that individual rights deserve protection, that human beings possess dignity. These principles inspire people because they speak to something universal. They speak to the aspirations that appear throughout human history. That is why America's significance cannot be measured solely in square miles or population figures. Its significance lies in the ideas it helped advance. Imagine historians studying America 500 years from now, or 1,000 years from now. How might they view us? Perhaps they will study America the way we study Rome, not as the end of civilization, but as an important stage in its development. They may examine our success, our failures. They may examine the ideas we advance. The key point is this: history does not stop with us. Civilization did not begin with us, and it will not end with us. We are participants in a much larger story. The people who signed the Declaration could not have imagined airplanes, computers, space flight, artificial intelligence, or modern medicine. Likewise, we cannot fully imagine the world that future generations will inherit. New technologies will emerge, institutions will emerge, challenges will emerge. The question is not whether civilization will continue evolving, it will. The question is whether future generations will continue advancing the principles of liberty, dignity, and human flourishing. Every generation inherits the world of those who came before. Every generation decides what it will contribute. One of the humbling realities of history is that none of us own civilization. We inherit it. We contribute to it. Then we pass it on. We are temporary custodians. The institutions we enjoy today were built by people we will never meet. Likewise, many of the benefits future generations enjoy may result from decisions we make today. This perspective encourages humanity. It encourages stewardship, and it reminds us that our responsibilities extend beyond ourselves. 250 years is a remarkable achievement. Few political systems have demonstrated such durability. Yet, America's significance is not simply that it survived. Its significance lies in what it represents. America represents one chapter in humanity's continuing research for better ways to live together. A search for justice, liberty, dignity, and opportunity. The American experiment remains unfinished, just as civilization itself remains unfinished. Oh, the work continues. When we celebrate Independence Day, we celebrate the birth of a nation, but perhaps we celebrate something more. We celebrate humanity's capacity to learn, humanity's capacity to improve, humanity's capacity to expand the boundaries of freedom and opportunity. The story of America is part of a larger story, a story that began long before 1776, a story that will continue long after all of us are gone, a story written by countless generations striving to build a better future. The 4th of July is therefore more than a national holiday. It is a reminder that each generation inherits a responsibility to preserve what is good, to improve what can be improved, and to leave behind something better for those who follow. Yep. Oh, I don't have the closing statement here. Okay, I will make the closing statement. America is not the destination of human civilization. America is one of its great milestones. The Declaration of Independence was not the end of humanity's search for liberty, justice, and human dignity. It was one of humanity's greatest steps forward. And as we celebrate America's 250th anniversary, we celebrate not only a nation, but the continuing journey of mankind itself. So, that right there was my presentation. Sorry, the camera's over here. I'm looking all over the place. I hope I didn't make it too boring for you. I know I messed up on the script a little bit, but that is how you know I'm not artificial intelligence. I tried doing this with artificial intelligence. The problem with artificial intelligence is it doesn't feel the words. It doesn't feel the emotion. Artificial intelligence gives a very mundane, humdrum kind of script. And if you're going to watch my show, I appreciate your watching my show. I appreciate you listening to me. And I think that if you do me the favor of watching my show and listening to me, I should do you the favor of providing you with a human voice. Remember, before I lost the race, before I lost the primaries, I was actually trying to become your representative to the United States Congress. Now I'm just going to give my little weekly show. I'm going to tell people the way I think, provide political opinion. Okay, but let me get back to the slides here. Keeping It Constitutional is a book that I have written. And I want you to buy this book. Walter Knuckles Thomas is my writer's name. Anytime I write a book, I put down by Walter Knuckles Thomas. My name is Thomas W. Timbrooks. Walter Knuckles Thomas. That's a name that's developed over the years. It started out as a burner name. A bunch of hippies called me that. I figured, yeah, I'll keep it. It's fun. But anyways, I want you to read this book. Basically, I've taken all of the speeches, all of the presentations that I've created over the last year and a half, and I put a bunch of those speeches, presentations into a book. Now, for every book that is sold, I get, this is on Amazon, for every book that's sold, that's cost is $30, I get $10. $5 goes straight to taxes, so I actually only get to keep $5. I'm going to take $2.50, that's half of everything I get to keep, and I'm going to put that into the election fund. So if you buy this book, every time you buy this book or anybody buys this book, $2.50 goes straight to the Republican election fund. Okay, so buy this book and enjoy it. 10 top objectives here: research into immunotherapy for cancer research, tuberculosis and polio screening for all migrants, require early measles vaccination, proposed 28th Amendment for transparency and financial incentives, protecting our law enforcement through the Reasonable Operation Space Act, American Talent First Act to ensure American workers are prioritized, in-person voting, I want that. 5-pillar blueprint to empower local governments, secure America's digital infrastructure by requiring PLCs be built domestically, remove $5 trillion from the national debt. I think I could do that. I support Donald Trump for the Nobel Peace Prize, and I support David Russ for the position of United States Representative to Congress for Oregon's 6th Congressional District. Support MAGA, Make America Great Again, but mostly I support Mosk Dagka, Make Oregon's 6th Congressional District America's greatest congressional district. And so that's my presentation for today. Happy 4th of July, everybody. Over here at the Yamhill County Fairgrounds, there's going to be a pretty neat little party. And probably going to go there, have a couple of beers. If you recognize me, say hi. I might have some of my books there. So yeah, just if you see me, say hi. Hi, Walter. Hi, Tom. Whatever. I would love to know that the show is being watched. So anyways, thank you very much for listening to me. Take care and God bless.